Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Trained Weapons and Assault Tactics TWAT tournament.
Yes, we are right now. We are in the clutch moment, the decider map on Consulate. It is a 1v0 in favor of Valley Studios Gaming, a very unknown team who is trying to make a rise to the top against the well-known Ramrod. So we're going to jump right back into the action where we left off. So right now we're seeing Z. He's kind of peeking down those stairs with IQ. He's looking around for that pulse. He wants to definitely feed. And oh my God! Razor Saint was just taken down by Bandit. He dropped down a hatch and was taken out very quickly. That's unfortunate. Razor is a top fragger on this team.
Other man, if you were looking at his iPad less, maybe he would have been helping.
That is certainly not an iPad, Zach. Now they are down to a 2v5, and this is not looking good. All right, oh, 1v5.
Okay,
Z
not
is
looking
all by
good,
himself.
Aaron. Not looking good.
No, it is not. And he takes out the pulse. That's good. That's good. At least they can't be found by Pulse's sensor anymore. And here comes another one. Smoke has been taken out. There goes that. No more holding back Z from pushing in last minute with those smoke grenades.
Couldn't help but notice he missed his first 5 shots.
Oh my God! Bandit runs right into those bullets. Z could not have done this without Bandit's help, certainly.
Yeah, the running around corners, guns blazing tactic did not work 3 times in a row, surprising.
No,
maybe it'll work a 4th time.
He throws the grenade at the hatch, blows the hatch, but that does not count for kills, Z. Very typical of him.
Now we're staring at the wall. This is a bold strategy, Aaron. Hopefully it'll pay off.
Who knows? He jumps around that wall. Doesn't look like it was going well for him, and he starts peeking the floor. He is definitely looking through the floor. Is he going to see anything?
What kind of idiot looks through the floor hatch for a kill?
I have no idea. But
And he gets a kill through the floor hatch!
Oh my God! That's a headshot against the Jaeger.
Like
Jaeger
I
is
said,
gone.
great strategy there, Aaron.
This should not be happening. Z is not this good. He is not what you would call a top fragger on this team, but look at him go. Less than a minute left, and he's going to try droning now. Maybe this is something he should have tried doing a little bit earlier. He goes into the OBJ, sees the hostage, and there he is. It is Lord Chunk on his turret, and Z runs away. Now, this seems very typical.
Looks like he's been noticed, though, Aaron, and I really don't know where he's going to go from this. This is going to take some finesse. This is going to take some planning.
That's things Z is known to have.
We seem to be staring at a floor tile. Oh, we're opening fire on the floor tile now. I'm not sure about that one. Shades of an alcohol problem there.
I would agree, and you know what? He's just going to finish off that floor tile right there with a grenade. Again, Z, that does not count towards your KD. I know you're probably trying to stack it in your favor. And he drops the hatch, and he peeks to where Chunk was. And
there it is!
Oh my
That's
God!
a goal for VSG! The winning goal!
Wait, no, Zach, this is C.
VSG is on fire now! Ramrod's gonna have to score another goal of their own if they want to get VSG off fire!
Wait, no, that is NBA Jam. This is Rainbow
El
Six
enemigo casi le mata, pero ese espíritu de lucha es más fuerte!
When do you speak Spanish?
Victoria VSG!
Guys and gals, welcome to Ramblers, where we are talking about a subject today that hits us very close to home, particularly with our own Valley Studios gaming team. And that, of course, is the wonderful world of esports.
As Aaron said, this does hit us really close to home, not just because, obviously, as we speak for our own professional esports gaming team here at Valley Studios, but really just us as video game players, as video game lovers, as any person that sat in front of a bright screen way too close from what our parents wanted us to be, with the lights out, and them telling us you're never going to make any money doing that. That's not true today. There are prizes going on. There are people making livings playing video games. Did we really see that becoming realistic, though? At least as prevalent as it is today. I really don't think we did, but what do you think?
You know, I don't think so. My father always told me video games would get me nowhere in life. But you know, if we're going to talk about the prizes and where we've gone with it, we certainly need a point of reference to start with. So let's go back to the very first esports tournament.
For a history lesson. All right, let's go for a history lesson here, folks. So, depending on who you talk to and what your research is, the earliest known gaming tournament, at least with a sizable personnel and a prize, was 1972, and that was at Stanford University's AI laboratory, where right around 24 people piled in for a tournament of Space Wars. Do you remember Space Wars?
Of course.
You are a damn liar. Not a single person remembers Space Wars. However, 24 people duked it out in just a battle royale. Grand prize, a year subscription to Rolling Stone magazine.
Ooh.
Shelling out the big bucks
Yeah,
here.
but prizes certainly have actually improved over time.
They have improved, but we're not yet in the money. So really, if you go back, the first real credited esports event in this regard is in 1980. There was a 10,000 entrant Space Invaders tournament.
Not too shabby of a turnout because you actually meant 1,000.
I meant 10,000.
What?
You're talking about time that predates the internet and advertisement. 10,000 people made it to the Space Invaders tournament where, because you're probably asking, how do you have a Space Invaders tournament? Well, you just play until you see who racks up the highest score, quite frankly. Aaron, can you guess what the prize for a day filled with Space Invaders for years of training for Space Invaders got you?
A couple $1,000.
A full-size Space Invaders cabinet.
I would be sick and tired of playing Space Invaders by then.
Rebecca Heineman, the person who won the tournament, said that exact same thing. Never wanted to play a game of Space Invaders ever again. She actually wanted to win the Atari computer that they had.
Oh, would that go to second place?
I think that was second place, yes.
Wow. So when do we actually get cash into the mix here?
Patience. We got a little bit more history to go through here. 1997, your friend and mine in the first-person shooter industry, Quake, held the Red Annihilation tournament.
I love first-person shooters.
We are in Aaron's wheelhouse right here. And Aaron?
And first prize was what?
A Ferrari.
What?
Not cash, but not too shabby, right?
No, I would gladly take that over, year subscription to magazines.
The grand prize winner drove off in his own brand new Ferrari. Well, no, it was used. I believe it was the lead developer's Ferrari, but still.
So when does esports really become a viable career choice for people?
Well, so following Red Annihilation, we're talking still getting into 97, 98, the tail end of the 90s here. That's where you started seeing these tournament organizations pop up. We're talking Cyber Athlete Pro League, the Pro Gamers League, QuakeCon, and prizes started coming up. Like $15,000 for a prize pool, up to about 10 years later, 7 to 10 years later, about $150,000 in prizes.
$150,000, I could have that.
We're getting up there, right?
Okay, yeah, we are.
So then we start entering the 2000s. This starts becoming a little bit more prevalent. You start getting more and more tournaments and events being held, like the World Cyber Games, the Esports World Cup, and your friend and mine, Major League Gaming. MLG. That's where we started getting the emergence of that. And also worth noting as we're getting toward the tail end of the 2000s here. Have you ever heard of the Defense of the Ancients?
Dota?
You might know it as Dota.
Yeah.
Dota, which just started out as a modded game type for Warcraft 3 of the Frozen Throne, became extremely popular, sparking two young college boys to basically rip off Dota, and develop their own game, League of Legends. Everybody's heard of League of Legends, whether you've played a game of League of Legends or not. And this is where history starts being made, because whether or not you like League of Legends, whether or not you could just never get gold rank and therefore hated the game, whether or not you don't like anybody who plays it, you hate the community, whatever you will or want to admit, this is where esports really took off for America.
With LOL.
With LOL. Because 2011, League of Legends held its first Worlds tournament with the grand prize pool, for a total prize pool, $100,000. Not bad. This is where we start thinking we can really start making money as gamers, right? $100,000.
Oh, yeah.
1 year later, $2 million prize pool for League of Legends.
In 1 year?
In 1 year, we went from $100,000 to $2 million.
That's ridiculous.
Now, we hovered around that $2 million prize pool for the next 3 years. We're talking $2 million and some change, a little bit more change. 2015, we expanded to $5 million. 3 more million entered into the marks.
$5 million. We could make that VSG.
Well, petered off slightly. 2016, League of Legends went to $4.9 million for a prize pool. But really, by this point, nobody's talking about League of Legends anymore. Going back to Dota, as Valve published Dota 2. A lot of people didn't think Dota 2 was going to take off with League of Legends beating it to the punch, so to speak. By 2014, its own version of its world tournament, the International, I believe it was the International 4 in this regard, $10 million prize pool. 2017, $24 million prize pool. And obviously, I'm just speaking about MOBAs right now. I'm not even touching things like Evo, Evolution, which has had more than 20 years with the fighting game tournaments, has always offered prize pools. Not huge ones, ever growing, of course. I'm not even talking first-person shooters. This is just the MOBA market. And the MOBA market really did help take off esports for America. It has done wonders.
It's getting huge.
Are you sitting down?
No,
obviously
I'm
not.
done.
Obviously, you're not sitting down. Sorry. Fortnite. How do you feel about Fortnite?
I hate that game.
You hate Fortnite?
Yes.
I'm relatively annoyed by Fortnite, mainly because I'm just not good enough to play it.
Let me guess. Prize pool of $25 million?
25 million. No. 25 times 4.
What?
Over the next year, Epic Games has announced they're pooling $100 million toward the prizes for Fortnite competitions. And if I understand correctly, the grand prize winners of the big Fortnite tournament are going to be splitting a $3 million prize to themselves. Not a $3 million prize pool, $3 million grand prize to themselves. How would you like $1.5 million for winning a game of Siege?
I'd take it. I'd take it.
So really, we come full circle since the days in the late 80s when, some of us were just playing Super Mario Brothers, getting to the 90s with Super Nintendo, the days we were told we were wasting our lives on video games. There's actually a living in it now. I mean, to make millions of dollars to play a video game. And that's actually something important to note is we're really just talking about esports here with money. With League of Legends becoming as popular as it did, that's what started doing wonders for the streaming community. Yes, I know, history buffs, streaming has been around a little bit longer than that, and it has been bigger in other countries. I mean, by this point, it's a meme that everybody knows that Korea had its own TV channel for StarCraft.
Right.
But still, here in America, that was not really a big concept. And these days, I believe Hotshot GG was one of the pioneers for it, teaching you that, yes, there was a market in having people watch you play a video game, with selling ad space, with learning tips and tricks, just donations for your time. In a lot of ways, sort of like its own crowdfunding. Pay for me to play this video game so that I can keep playing and teaching you things.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm a big MOBA fan, okay? I tracked League of Legends shortly after it started, and I've moved on to a lot of different MOBAs in the genre. I've been watching them. Smite has its own world championship with nearly a $3 million prize pool. You're more on the shooter end of this, and I know Valley Studios Gaming actively participates in this community. So as somebody who actually participates in it, let me know how you've been going through this.
Right. So I mean, obviously, with Valley Studios Gaming, which you can make sure you subscribe and like us. I'll leave links below. We obviously actively participate in a bunch of tournaments. One of the newest tournaments that came out is the Go 4 tournament, which is PlayStation exclusive. We're super excited. Siege just kind of burnt us on the long run on tournaments. It's always been Xbox and PC, but that's all right. We got our own. Anyways, obviously with something like this, you do spend a lot of time, right? You spend a lot of time practicing and warming up, and of course our team has a bunch of adults who have children in real life. So we're very excited with these prize pools being put out there. The Go 4 tournaments, the MLG tournaments, they're not huge for Siege right now unless you get onto the main stage sort of stuff. But what they're doing is they're opening it up to the amateurs like us. So what we're really seeing in the first-person shooter world, particularly with Siege, is the ability for newbies and amateurs to kind of actually get in there and play with the pros, which is a fairly new concept. A lot of your players beforehand, particularly for like your fighters, have actually had sponsors who have kind of sponsored them forward. And we're seeing that basically a team can be their own, which is really kind of nice to have that.
Absolutely. The sponsorships have also really taken off. The idea of having a professional gaming team with representatives, and this is something that's capitalized off of the realization of not just tournament wins, but of streaming revenue. A lot of streamers, as they attach themselves to a gaming team, the team gets the cut of that, the team gets exposure. In a lot of ways, people have poked fun at the way race car drivers walk around wearing, Pennzoil, McDonald's, Burger King all over themselves. But how many times now can you turn on a streamer and see Razer, you can see Corsair, obviously modeling what we want, our computer parts and our hardware. Right. It's really, to me, it's fascinating and it's impressive. We have hit a point where video games are marketable, and playing them is a full-time job. You have to be good enough for people to want to watch you. I'm still having that problem. I don't know about you, but it really is. It's fascinating as a market.
And when you talk about obviously needing the sponsors and stuff like that, and obviously we don't sell out. This episode is brought to you by Design by Diane's. If you need to pick something up, any form of chipboard or craft, she can get it done. She does cup holders, scrubbies for your dishes. She has chipboard designs for Mr. and Mrs. anything. If you've got a significant other's birthday coming up, or maybe you forgot your anniversary, check out Design by Diane's. We obviously do not sell out.
That was awful.
That was my mother-in-law's company.
I mean, it was great.
Ah, we love you, Diane. I really do.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
So, realistically, if you kind of date back, this is sort of what happened with professional poker playing with Texas Hold'em. Were you familiar with any of that?
I love watching it on TV, but it is definitely a vice, and I would never admit it to an audience.
Well, basically, all I'm saying here is that poker itself, playing it professionally, was whatever. But Chris Moneymaker won the World Series of Poker, proving regular Joe can go do it and make millions. That is when it saw the big surgeons. That's kind of what happened here with gaming. I mean, tournaments, like we said, the tournaments have been happening since the 80s, since the 90s. I mean, yeah, we're joking about how you could win a subscription to a magazine or an arcade or a copy of a game you don't want to play ever again because you've mastered it. But realistically, you name it, first-person shooters, For Honor, racing games, fighting games, Smash Brothers, if you count that as a fighting game, and a lot of people don't, I'm sorry. There's been tournaments, there's been prizes, but the big money, the streaming, this is somewhat new. I mean, well, I shouldn't say it's hard for me to realize we're already in 2018 now.
Yes.
And 2011 is really when LoL hit the scene and struck hard. And whether or not LoL itself is losing out, I think professional gaming is only growing. What about you? Do you think it's growing? Do you think it can possibly sustain this growth?
So I think professional gaming is certainly growing. Again, when you see tournaments opening up to even the amateurs and saying, look, we're going to open it up and allow you guys to come in, there's obviously some kind of pull, right? There's some form of revenue gain for them to pull people in, whether it be sponsorships paying for their entry fee, that sort of stuff, or individuals paying for their entry fee. But what's interesting is, yeah, you might have a $150 million prize pool over the whole tournament. Right. But if you've got Siege, right, 5-man team, and you're going to take $150,000 for your top. Because, again, it's only been out 3 years. It's a fairly new game. It's certainly growing. It's grown another 3 million players in the last year. But you take something like that where it's smaller. It's not like a COD or a Halo tournament, so the prize pools aren't millions of dollars. They're $150,000, $200,000 for the grand prize.
Absolutely.
Split that amongst 4 people, right? If you have 200,000 or 5 people, you have $200,000 split amongst 5 people. That's $40,000, right? Granted, it's better than what I made as a reporter, but it's for the amount of time you have to commit, the equipment you need to play and stay at the top. It's not enough. And I think that's where you see the tie-in of streaming with these sorts of things, because the real money for a lot of your pro gamers is coming from streams.
Absolutely.
You have you have like some of your teams like Pengu from Penta Sports, and he's actually a streamer as well.
Right.
And it doesn't just stop there, right? You have people like your shoutcasters, like you and me, because we were awesome at it. You have people like your shoutcasters who also have to stream to make a continued revenue, because even though they're working for esports, you have to have some sort of thing. So you have like Kickstar, who's also an active streamer on top of working for esports as a shoutcaster for Siege.
Important, worth noting, though, a lot of the shoutcasters varied between being on the development team for these games, on the PR team for these games, to being players who may not necessarily be part of the pro teams or even be good enough mechanically to be playing in the pro circuit, but are knowledgeable, are charismatic. So even consider that. Opportunities and careers in gaming are opening up as long as you have a good personality and can prove you can kind of play the game that you're playing.
I agree. Esports, consider this our demo tape.
Can you do a tooth sparkle for us?
I sure can. Oh, so anyways, God, we're good looking. So I mean, I do think this is going to be something that's sustainable. You are seeing the fan base where they're selling out arenas for these tournaments, right?
That's a big deal too. We're getting past centers and into convention centers. Hotels. If you ever watch any fighting game tournaments, you'd see the backdrop vary between someone's hotel room, somebody's apartment kitchen, to actual arenas now. You're correct, and these are big fanfare events. Worth noting, actually, pretty fascinating. Are you aware of part of some of the growth for this?
No.
The funding for these big prize pools, which may or may not add to its longevity and prove profitable throughout the future, is a lot of these tournaments are now turning to, I guess you could call it a form of crowdfunding.
Okay.
Approaching these pro gaming teams, these Counter Logic Gamings, these Team Liquids, TSMs, and saying, are you willing to donate 5, 10, whatever million worth of your revenue towards the tournament prize payouts? Think of how much bigger we can make the event, how much more we can offer, what it can do for the long term of esports.
Right.
So in a way, too, they're getting these professional teams that have profited from gamers, getting them to help fund these prize pools. That's why the money is really growing. Mm-hmm. Sort of creating its own gamers union in a sort of way.
Right, and so it certainly makes it self-contained so that you can, in fact, continue to grow it. Because, again, right, it's the same thing with YouTube, right? If we could see a small growth, that small growth will then push us out to a larger growth.
Right.
You're going to see the same thing, obviously, with esports. It's interesting how, as we've hit this time, this whole concept is full rounded, from everything to, major leagues to us on that camera. But it's really cool to kind of see, because it makes me feel like we have a chance.
Well, not just that. I mean, whether we're joking about you having a chance at being a professional gamer, we're being very serious about the fact that even the fact that esports exist means that you and I can sit here and talk about esports.
It certainly does. It gives us a great topic for this week. But I do think this is something that we're going to be able to see hold in the long haul. It's getting its fan base. You have people who are becoming actually like team-based fans. For me, I'm a Team Rogue all the way for Siege. I love Team Rogue. I know Tanner is probably someone stupid like Supremacy. But
Supremacy sucks.
Supremacy sucks. They may have beat us, but that's besides the point.
Who's Supremacy?
Team Supremacy is like number 3 in the world right now.
Oh yeah, they're terrible.
Yeah, they're awful.
Really
we had an
Siege.
MLG game against them. I am not splicing in footage of it right now because we did awful. But they were also number 3.
We won 2 rounds.
We did win 2 rounds. Thank you, Tanner.
No, 3. We're going 3.
Oh yes, because we put them into overtime. Anyways,
Tanner, how do you say your last name?
Dornacher.
Tanner Dornacher, director of this show, Valley Studios.
Yes. So anyways, I think it's something that we definitely will see going for the long haul. I don't know if it's ever going to be as big as pro sports, but it's certainly making its mark in the world. It's niche. It's definitely niche, but it's got a bigger following, I think, than most people ever expected when it kicked off.
Well, and I'm not going to try to count all my eggs in one basket here, try to get a little delusional or naive here, but professional sports themselves are starting to see a dip. Not that we're going to get political at all, but there's a lot of politics permeating the professional sports scene. There are fewer and fewer people watching. And let's be honest, it's also a generational thing. The kind of sort of people that are watching a Siege tournament or a League of Legends Worlds are probably not watching the Super Bowl. So it's
Probably not.
definitely a different demographic in the first place. Whether it gets as big and prevalent as professional sports, I could sit here and tell you I don't see that happening, but then again, did anybody see professional sports becoming as big as they became?
When they started, probably not.
If you're going back to the 20s and 30s, did you ever think they would tell one of those guys, someday we're going to pay a shortstop $250 million to be a shortstop?
No.
And and that's just the last figure I'd ever heard. I'm sure money's gotten even more ridiculous since then.
Right.
It's the scale. I think with teams pouring their own money into making events bigger, I think events are going to grow even larger. Do you think it's healthy for something I've been asked a few times? Do you think it's healthy for the world that there is a pro gaming scene? I mean, really think about this. I'm not trying to get too controversial, but think of pro sports. In some way, pro sports does promote physical acumen, a healthy lifestyle.
It does and it doesn't, right? At the same time, how many times have pro sports teams lobbied against the concussive injuries that come from football, right? There are actual health issues that come out of something like that. And I'm not going to sit here and say that, gamers don't get health issues. I'm sure you see a lot of gamers who, if they did this for 15 years straight, they end up with carpal tunnel or something like that, right? I mean, it's all about, for professional sports players, the same is going to be true for professional gamers, is you have to keep yourself in health. But to me, plain and simple, that is a personal thing. That is not professional gaming should not have to be like, while we're on this break, let's do a quick little video clip of what Zach does to keep himself in health. And suddenly we have the Rocky theme playing, and Zach, you're running up a bunch of stairs.
I eat an entire pizza
right.
to myself.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, sports has never been one of those, it's never been a professional sports player to tell me to be healthy.
Sure.
Right? If I'm watching hockey, right? I'm a hockey fan. If I'm watching hockey, I'm watching it for the game. I'm not going, oh, God, look at his leg muscles ripple as he goes down the ice.
That is exactly what he says when we watch hockey. Don't let him fool you.
You're not supposed to tell my secrets. But the point is to me, hockey doesn't tell me I need to keep in shape, right?
Right.
My body and the aches and pains I feel in the morning that I shouldn't be feeling at 30 years old is what tells me you should probably get yourself back in shape.
Absolutely. I'm in full agreement with you there. It's easy to poke fun at because we are gamers, and no matter how successful gaming becomes, there's still the gamer stigma. And there are embarrassing moments. I mean, everybody's heard of the League of Legends streamer, who I will not name for lawsuit reasons, but who got scurvy because he literally did not eat, anything with vitamins in it for so long.
Right.
And it comes with the territory of, as people say, being just a shut-in video game kid who now is making millions of dollars and being out on his own.
But then are we to assume that all sports players are also abusive? I mean, how many times is it? But you know what I'm saying? How many times does it happen in the media, right?
Yeah,
how many times do we hear about professional football players or basketball players who they're caught on camera beating a woman? But the truth of it is I don't assume that about every sports player.
No, and you're absolutely
I mean,
right.
the ones that I went to high school with, I assume that about every single one of you mofos. But I don't.
It's the stigma that's going to follow gamers and professional gaming everywhere we go.
Right.
And that's just, unfortunately, going to be the fact of the matter. I don't know if that'll get any better or what will make it better, but it's there.
The stereotypes are always there for all of it, and you know what? It allows us to play jokes at everything.
Absolutely. However, I've money trailed on this a ton. Basically, here we are. Like I said, 30 years ago, just playing video games because they're fun. Games would track scores. These days, there's an actual living to be made. I mean, how cool would it be to play your favorite video game? You'd probably have to turn it into a job at some point where it's
Right.
a little less fun than it started out casually.
Of course.
But to retire after playing, imagine if there were a Super Mario tournament and you win it, and not only did you just play your favorite video game, but now you've won $5 million.
Right. You're like, hell, I'm good.
So let this be a lesson for all of you as you're growing up, as your parents tell you video games are rotting your brain, video games have no value for your life. That's not actually true. There's a living to be made in it.
There certainly is. And it's kind of funny. Sorry, I'm going to take one last rant here. I think back to the old Carol Burnett show, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but she plays like an older mom, and even though she was younger, she plays like an older mom, and she talks about like her son who became a video game developer. Sure. And he comes home or whatever, and she's so excited, but she actually has no idea what it is he does. She just knows he's making this really killer living. And she finally asks him, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I develop video games. And she had told him his whole life that wouldn't lead to anything. So it's kind of, now granted, that's completely different what we're talking about with MLG, but there is money to be made, and if it's not in the MLG world, it certainly isn't developing, because I don't think video games are going anywhere.
I think I'm in agreement with you. If anything, I think they're on the way up. Mm-hmm. So kids, keep gaming.
Stick to your guns.
I was about to say stay in school, but yeah.
So that's going to do it for us. Tanner, put your hands down. I have to do a sign out real quick. We appreciate you guys joining us this week as we talked about the wonderful world of esports. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. Don't forget, we are an Amazon associate or something like that. I'm going to kick you as soon as I get done, Tanner, for shaking the camera. So make sure you, if you're going to Amazon, looking for any games, Siege, God of War, we talked about that last week. Make sure you use the Amazon Associates link. We'd be really grateful. It helps us out. And, of course, don't forget about our Patreon page where you can become a member of our exclusive community, get behind-the-scenes videos, photos, and, of course, early access to all of our video and audio, because this is technically a video podcast, so you can take the audio versions from Anchor and iTunes, take us on the road with you as you drive, because you should not be watching while you drive.
Distracted driving is not a victimless crime.
That is right, Mins. Put the phone down and stop watching us. Just listen to us. Anyways, thanks so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you guys here. And, of course, don't forget that we have other things going on, not just Valley Studios Gaming, including Valley Studios Gaming.
Of course.
We also have Ramblers, which you're watching. We have the Valley Studios Gamescast, and yes, Chucky Chicken. So make sure.
As well as the fact that our team streams regularly.
Yes, they do. Gooch, get on it, man. Every Friday you can watch THC Gooch, Steven Rosales stream on our YouTube channel, and sometimes you can catch me over on our Twitch channel. If you haven't checked that out, it's ram_TV_. So just throwbacks to the old stuff.
Absolutely.
Also, I'm too lazy to make new stuff. So make sure you check us out. Thanks for joining us. And of course, next week we are talking about.
What are we talking about next week?
Stuff.
It's good stuff.
It's good stuff. So make sure you stay tuned, and we will see you guys later.